All right, today we're jumping into Genesis chapter 31. And let me tell you, this is not just some dry, ancient text. This is a story with all the drama you could ask for. We're talking about a high-stakes business deal gone totally sour, a family ripped apart by greed, a crazy daring escape, and then a massive confrontation on a mountaintop. It's got it all.
So let me ask you this. What happens when a 20-year business deal just completely falls apart? I mean, imagine working for a family member for 2 whole decades. You're building their wealth, you're doing everything right, and then it hits you. You're being totally exploited. Well, that's exactly where Jacob finds himself with his father-in-law Laban. And this is why this story is so powerful. It's not just ancient history. It's a timeless drama, really, about loyalty, deception, and what happens when you finally hit that breaking point.
Okay, so let's set the scene. For 20 years, Jacob has been working for Laban. 20 years! But now, something's different. The whole vibe has shifted. The text puts it this way. Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. Basically, Jacob can see it on his father-in-law's face. The smiles are gone. You could just feel the hostility brewing. The partnership is pretty much over, and things are about to boil over.
10. Just think about that number for a second. That's how many times Laban messed with Jacob's wages. Jacob even tells his wives, "Your father hath deceived me and changed my wages 10 times." Can you imagine? Every single time Jacob started to do well, started to get a little bit ahead, Laban would just swoop in and change the rules of the deal. This one fact right here, it tells you everything you need to know. It's all the motivation Jacob needs to say, "I'm out of here."
And this is where the family drama really gets intense. You've got this complete divide. On one side, you have Laban's sons. They're looking at Jacob and saying, that guy has taken everything that belonged to our father. They see him as a thief. But then, get this. On the other side, you have Laban's own daughters, Jacob's wives, Rachel and Leah. And what do? They say their own father hath sold us and hath quite devoured also our money. Wow. They feel like he's the one who exploited them. So the really crucial thing here is that Jacob is not alone in this. His wives are 100% on his side. So right in the middle of all this tension and drama, Jacob gets a direct command from God. And it's simple. Return to the land of your fathers, and I will be with you. Bam. This changes everything. Suddenly, Jacob isn't just a guy running away from a terrible boss. He's on a divine mission. And he's got a promise of protection from the highest authority there is.
So, with God's green light and his wives totally backing him up, Jacob makes a choice. And it's a big one. He's not going to go ask Laban for permission to leave. I mean, come on, he knows Laban would never, ever let him go. So what's the plan? He's going to run. He's going to flee. The idea is to pack up the entire family, all their possessions, and just vanish. Disappear without a single word.
So here's how it goes down. Jacob pulls his wives, Rachel and Leah, aside and lays out the whole case. And, they're on board instantly. They see their father's deception just as clearly as Jacob does. So they all agree. Laban has totally wronged them. The plan? They're going to pack up the family, all their belongings, the whole shebang. And they decide to do it while Laban is off shearing his sheep. It was the perfect opportunity, a huge event that would keep him busy and completely distracted.
But wait, because here's where the plot thickens. A massive twist gets thrown into the mix. Someone steals Laban's household idols, his gods. And the thing is, Jacob has no clue. It was his wife, Rachel, who took them. Now you got to understand, these weren't just little statues. They were super important symbols of family authority, maybe even linked to inheritance rights. And Jacob, he is completely in the dark about this. And that one secret act is about to put his entire family in very, very real danger. Okay, so 3 days pass after Jacob's escape. And that's when Laban gets the news. And he is furious, absolutely livid. He doesn't waste a second. He rounds up his relatives, his whole crew, and launches this immediate, relentless pursuit. So what started as a great escape has now turned into a high-stakes, desperate chase across the wilderness. Just look at this timeline. It takes 3 whole days for Laban to even realize Jacob is gone. But once he does, he and his men are in pursuit for another 7 days. We're talking a full week of hard riding. This isn't some leisurely trip. This is an angry man with a posse gunning it to catch up. And on day 10, it happens. He finally overtakes Jacob's caravan at a place called Mount Gilead.
So Laban is closing in, and you can just imagine he's got violence on his mind. But then just as he's about to pounce, there's another one of these divine interventions. The night before he catches up to Jacob, God appears to Laban in a dream and gives him this very clear, very stark warning. Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And with that, the whole dynamic of this showdown is about to flip on its head.
So you might be wondering, what does that even mean, speak not either good or bad? It's a Hebrew idiom, and it's much stronger than it sounds. It doesn't just mean don't say anything nice or mean. No. It means don't do anything to him. Do not interfere with him at all. Back off. So Laban shows up with all this power, ready to bring the hammer down on Jacob, but he's just been told by God himself to stand down.
And here we are. The big confrontation on the mountaintop. You can just cut the tension with a knife. Laban is absolutely seething with anger, but he's also held back by that dream. He knows he can't lay a hand on Jacob. So what does he do? He attacks him with his words. He launches into this tirade, accusing Jacob of being a liar, of being disrespectful, the whole 9 yards.
Laban knows his hands are tied when it comes to violence, so he pivots his strategy. He says something like, "Look, I get it, you wanted to go home. I understand. But why did you steal my gods?" See what he's doing? This is his new angle, his trump card. He can't punish Jacob for leaving, but he can accuse him of being a common thief. And for Jacob, hearing this, it's a total shock. It comes completely out of left field.
Well, Jacob is so sure of his own innocence and so outraged by this accusation that he makes this incredibly rash, terrible vow. He blurts out, "With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live." He's basically saying, anyone in my camp who has them deserves to die. Oh, the dramatic irony here is just crushing. He has absolutely no idea that he just pronounced a death sentence on his favorite wife, Rachel.
So Laban immediately starts this frantic search, just tearing through the camp, tent by tent. When he finally gets to Rachel's tent, she pulls off this unbelievably clever deception. See, she's hidden the idols in her camel's saddle, and she's sitting right on top of it. She calmly tells her father she can't stand up because of, well, the custom of women. She's using a powerful cultural taboo to stop him in his tracks. And it works. Laban searches, but he finds absolutely nothing.
Okay, so the search comes up empty. And now it's Jacob's turn. He's been proven innocent, and he is furious. He finally just lets it all out. This is basically his 20-year receipt of everything he's put up with. He just starts listing it all off. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, 6 years for your cattle. You changed my wages 10 times. I personally paid for any animal killed by beasts. I endured drought by day and frost by night. It's just this powerful, explosive release of 20 years of pent-up frustration.
At this point, Laban has been totally and completely outmaneuvered. Let's recap. He's been warned by God, his big accusation about the stolen idols fell flat, and he just got an epic dressing down from Jacob. He's got no moves left, so he pivots again. If you can't beat him, make a treaty with him, right? All that aggression just melts away and turns into diplomacy.
So what do? They gather up a heap of stones to act as a permanent marker for their treaty. And the terms are pretty straightforward. First, the pile of stones itself will be a witness to their agreement. Second, Jacob promises he won't mistreat Laban's daughters, Rachel and Leah. Third, and this is a big one, they set a physical boundary that neither of them will cross with the intent to harm the other. And finally, they both agree that God will watch over them and enforce the deal when they're apart.
And so this huge, epic conflict, it doesn't end with a battle. It ends with a meal. They share a sacrifice together right there on the mountain. The next morning, Laban gets up, kisses his daughters and his grandkids goodbye, he blesses them, and then he just turns around and heads for home. And that's it. The 20-year saga is officially over. The 2 families, the 2 clans, finally part ways for good.
So this incredible ancient story leaves us with a really modern question, doesn't it? What we just saw was a family-business relationship that got so toxic, it literally needed a stone border and a divine witness just to call it quits. It really makes you think, right? When you mix family and business, where do you draw the line? And can a boundary made of stone, or any promise really, ever be enough to truly keep them apart?